There. Now I'm getting something out of the mixer. Sometimes you just have to turn things on. There. Good. Okay, well, that explains a great many things. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a Monday, which clearly is Monday. Here we go. Get this there. Get it behind my back. Okay. Let's get the microphone positioned properly. Make sure everything is good. All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to November. It's acting more like November outside as it's gotten cold and kind of cranky. So there's that. Okay, so today's show is brought to you by Pablo Picasso, who says, "Everything you can imagine is real. Everything you can imagine is real." Let's go ahead and head over to the other camera so that we can get to work here and see what's happening. So I'm going to move over to that camera. Oh, man, it is a morning. It's lovely outside, though I have to admit it is just a little bit. My cat has moved my camera again. Can't seem to keep the camera on here. All right. He was chasing a bug. He had a bug in sight, and he knew that there was a bug, and he had to get the bug. So we're going to go ahead and draw our lines in here and draw our points. For those of you that are following at home, here we go. We're going to do that. I'm going to go this way. Use the long side of my L square. By the way, if you don't have an L square, that is absolutely okay. You can use just a normal ruler. That's not a problem at all. So now that we've done that, I'm going to take my French curve. The only thing you want to do is make sure whatever you use is a straight edge-esque thing. So make sure that it's straight in one way or another. All right. Take my normal 0.4 pin. I'm going to start right here. Lift my elbow from the table so that my elbow is not down on the table. You don't want it sitting down. You want it raised up. And we will draw this line. There we go. And we'll draw this line. All right. When we do point to point, we want to make sure we start at a starting point, and when we leave, as soon as we leave, we want to move our eyes to the ending point. The idea is not to make perfectly straight lines. The idea is to not get used to not looking at your pen when you're drawing. Being able to have the skill to either look ahead or look at the line depending on what you need. So these guys were looking at the line and trying to hold it straight. There we go. Like that. And then this one too. There we go. Just like that. Okay, same thing with these hooks. We're going to go around the corner. All right. Perfect. Just like that. And today is the 9th. So we'll go on ahead and put 11, 9, 20 on here, just to give us an idea of what we're doing. Okay, there we go. Now we'll move back over here, and we will go on ahead and switch back to our Ring camera. So today we're going to work a little bit on the kitty wake. I'm going to show you what we've done with a kitty wake. Make this bigger so you can see it. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. What do I want you to do? Man, you're just being a pest over here. There. Move this over here, and you can really see what I'm doing. So I took my model of the kitty wake, which you can see here, and I put like straight lines through it, right? And this makes it so that I can illustrate the 4 decks of the ship, right? And that's what we're going to work on today. Now, I had done the kitty wakes deck plans before, but frankly, I think I had done them a little wrong. They weren't big enough, right? So today's kitty wake plans are going to involve us taking things from the FASA deck plans and moving them over here. They're not permanent. It's not going to permanently be this way, but since Star Trek is like the closest to my universe as usual, and something I'm very familiar with, it makes it easy for me to visualize the space. When we move on and we figure out what chairs look like and what tables look like and things like that in the world of Kittiwake, in the world of Bellatrix Rising in general, then we'll come back and fix that. And we'll redo all of the internal stuff. Right now, we're just trying to get a feel for the space. Because one of the things that we looked at last time was, well, gee willikers, this is a tight space with not barely enough room for... But now I'm looking at it, it's bigger than a shuttlecraft from Star Trek, right? So, knowing that, just taking this guy here and taking him, and you can see you could fit a shuttlecraft sideways in the pilot house in the front of this. And so I kind of want to just get a feel for what we're talking about here, right? But the shuttlecraft of, the original shuttlecraft from Star Trek. Here, let's just delete that. There. We'll need that shuttle somewhere along the line. But the point that I'm getting at is that we could easily park one of these shuttles on the wing right here or over here. Even this very small room, which I had intentionally designed at one point in time to be a very small room, is huge. It's much bigger than I thought it would be. So we're going to start with just getting consoles and things in. Right, so I'm going to take back to layer 10, and we're just going to put in some control consoles. Right, because this is the pilot house. So we'll take this control console and just put it up front up here. Right? And this is just, like I said, just trying to get us to understand the space that we're in. There we go. Just like that. And there we go. We're going to put that there. That's the pilot house. And that's a very large room for the pilot house, much larger than I expected it to be. We'll go back down to layer 10. We'll call this map pieces. That way we know where the map pieces went. Right? Okay. So now we're looking, you can see the ship is much larger than I thought it would be. C deck on either side over here is too narrow or too short for people to crawl around in, but not too short for Jacine. So I think that Jacine will live in these little wings over here. And so we'll get into that in a minute. The Jacine are small. They're only about yay big. So to have a crew of 12 of these guys would still only take up like a quarter of the, not even a quarter of the space that we need. We're big people, relatively speaking. So I'm going to move in here. And we know that this is the pilot house. This is sciences or things like that. We do want the engines on the Kittiwake are nicely put out on pontoons. So all of the control surfaces and engines and everything like that are out on those warp nacelle sort of things, which aren't nacelles. They're on nacelles, but they're not on warp nacelles. They're not warp drive. But all of her structure and design. But the thing that she does need is a sail room where the sails are created. And the gravity room, which needs to be right up here in the front of the hammerhead. So we're going to take these widgets, which just indicate nothing more than just widgets, and move them. These large pieces of machinery are part of the sails and the gravity structure. And they're going to have to be put in here in a way that allows for movement around them. But they need to be centered in the center. This one needs to be centered in the center of the hammerhead for the gravity creation. Well, I can block you. I'm not famous. So we'll select. I thought there was a way I could do that. Doesn't matter. So we're going to go through here and deselect and select all of that and delete it. I'll select that a little bit there. Delete. Then I'll move you to right here. It's the sail generator for generating sails, which is not the same as revenue. Okay. And it's off center, which is going to drive me crazy. There we go. There. So, I can embed stuff into the stream. That's interesting. Interest stream. I think I'm funny. All right. So in order to get here, we're going to have to go in front of this room. And this is the gravity generator, which sits right in the center. I also feel like, we'd have other things going through the middle here. Take this guy. And this is just temporary, like I was saying before. We'll just put this in here. The ship needs gravity generators, and the ship will need a back engine control room, an after engine control room. But first, what I'm going to do is find the shuttle and move him back to the shuttle bay so we can figure out how big of a shuttle bay we really need. Because at first I thought we needed a huge shuttle bay, but now I'm thinking we really don't. I feel like somewhere along the line you need like a place where the entire crew can rally and meet and things like that, but it doesn't need to be a shuttle bay. They're using the shuttle bays in Star Trek, like Discovery, as multi-purpose rooms. And the truth is that I don't think I would really see those as multi-purpose. So, and this section here, I feel like should have a controller of some sort. So, we'll put this control panel there. I like the fact that I'm using a transporter's control panel. This makes it funnier. Here we go. I'm thinking that there's a hallway right through here on this port side and starboard side, so you can go around the gravity room. And I know you're all thinking, gosh, putting the gravity room awfully close to the front of the ship. It's true, but the gravity projectors need to work out the hammerhead. That's the reason why all my ships have hammerheads. So this gravity projector runs right through this line to the projector on the hammerhead. So it needs to be in the hammerhead somewhere. Maybe I want to kind of turn this guy, though. Maybe I do want that. All right, there's the console to run these guys. Most of the stuff that's going to be happening in our little universe is going to be on holographic computer panels. But there are some aspects of this that I think will be physical panels, because you'll always need that in case the holographics go down. So we're going to have a different sort of design here for this, right? So we've got the control panel for forward operating room there. And this section here is gravity control. And I feel like the engineering section should be in the back section too. So like all of the engineering pieces that we need. All right. The drive section should be back here, in between where it can run under the control surfaces. So, I feel like this is a good place. It's got enough room that we've got a buffer zone in case something crashes into the launch bay. But not a huge thing, right? So we've got part of an engine there. We'll go back up here. We'll pull in more pieces of engine. Like you, you're a good big piece of engine. We'll pull that down. Right, I'll put you over here. And these aren't the actual engines. Obviously, the engines are out on pontoons. So we can duplicate this. And I can just bring this over here. And I'll flip it. Right? And we'll go over here to transform and flip horizontal. Right? And that goes right there. With a 2-meter walkway around it. That's actually not bad. Hey V, how you doing? We are working on Starship deck plans. I know, you're shocked. You're really shocked. So I hope I sound relatively okay here on my microphone. We're trying something else here because I don't want to disrupt my kid's class, so I'm trying my microphone that usually works when I plug it into my camera. I use it for broadcasting. So I can be quieter because the microphone's really close to my mouth. But then, of course, if I get really loud, I can't be quiet for whatever reason. If I get too loud, give me a holler. So we're talking about this mythical space that we're living in here. And this is what we call the C deck, which is the main deck of my ship. I'll show you what I was doing before. I'd taken the 3D render of this ship. You can see it here. And you can see that I've divided the ship using 4 planes. Just normal, just normal planes of 3D modeling or whatever. And I ran them through the middle of the model, and it gave me an idea of how big each deck is. Right? There's 4. And then I just rendered it from the top view, turning off one plane at a time, and that allowed me to see different levels here. And then I brought those into here, over here onto Clip Studio, along with some assets that I have had forever. This is part of the FASA Games setup. They're not permanent. This isn't the permanent design. I just want to get an idea. Oh, good. You started watching Voyager. Be patient with it. The first and second season, like all of them, are rough. There's the hair rule. The hair rule is definitely in effect for Janeway. My hair rule is that Star Trek changes and gets much better when the characters change their hair. When certain characters change their hair. With Riker, he gets a beard. Sisko shaves his head. Janeway gets her hair down from that bun and straightens it out. And then Discovery is changing when Michael Burnham's hair gets really long. And I feel like that's so if you can make it to that, In Voyager, that's the end of third season with Scorpion 1 and 2. That's the name of those episodes. So, because it's in their nature. And you'll understand that joke when you get there. Scorpion 1 and 2 are the changing points in Voyager. That's when it gets so much better. That's not to say that there are bad episodes, but a couple of my favorite episodes in Voyager are The Muse, which is out in season 5, and a Blink of an Eye. Blink of an Eye, which is also out in season 5. So Year of Hell is very good. That's a 2-parter. That's a very, very good set of episodes for Voyager. Hang on real quick. You're not part of this discussion. They can't hear you. So, so that's something to maybe. Discovery is not as I don't know, spastic. I don't know. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for here, but it's not as wild a ride as I thought it would be. It has moments. There's a lot of wiggly camera, anxiety-inducing scenes. So, but it is good. There's just, and I feel like season 3, they're stabilizing a lot more. Season 1 seems to have a lot of kind of shock value things. So, anyway, I hope that works for you as well, because that would be great, I think. So, what we're doing here is I'm working, this is the gravity generator, which runs to the front of each side of the hammerhead. In my world, the ships use what they call the donkey drive or the carrot drive, depending on which way you look at it. The ships generate a black hole directly in front of the ship. The ship then falls towards the black hole, but since the ship is generating the black hole moves. So it's like putting the stick on the donkey and putting a carrot on it, and so that the donkey keeps trying to get to the carrot and he keeps walking. That's the idea and the concept behind it. So the biggest piece of machinery that we're going to find in our living space on this ship is going to be its gravity generators, which go to either side of the hammerhead. And the hammerhead needs, the reason all my ships have hammerheads is because they need a generator on each side so that they can project to a point. So that's what this is all about here. So all my ships have hammerheads so that they can do that. The bad guys have half dishes, so that they've got sort of a half cylinder on the front, or a half saucer, which does the same thing. That way they can, at the end of the saucer, project the black hole that they need to pull the ship along. The other thing that's out here on this hammerhead is the sail generator, and this is the sails. It generates the sails for hyperspace so that it can put all those sails forward, because all of those come out of the front of the hammerhead as well. So the rest of the ship is just multi-purpose, but everything past this line is pretty much into living space. So up here, this is the very front room. This is called the pilot room. And it's just windows up here, and all that's up there is the pilot. And usually, my mic is fine. Yay! I heard science black hole shark sauce bowls. I don't know what that means. Usually, nobody's up here. There's nobody up here in this room at all. But when the ship docks or gets close to a space station, they'll send the sailmaster or the navigator up here to pilot the ship from right up here. And in our case, that's Mayrel, and she can see from here. She can see all the way out this way and all the way out this way, and make it easy to park the ship with visual cues. So that's what we're looking for there. This is going to be a room that will play in my comic book because Mayrel will be up here. All of these controls will have to be physical at some point in time because of the fact that so we're building engineering stuff back here. I'm going to use this thing to just indicate lots of somethings. Okay, copy, and we'll paste. So this is going to be right here. There we go. Oh, gotcha. Well, so I've spent my COVID doing world building on this. And that's really what we're talking about here is world building. So these are right here, I don't know, widgets, things, radiators. I've got no idea. They're a thing. So we're moving along to the back section. This stuff right here controls flight surfaces and engines. The engines on this ship are on pontoons out on the side. Most engines, space-capable engines that generate power and that kind of thing, are on pontoons in my little space world. So even the larger ships are the hammerhead, a middle hull, and then an engine with engine pods on the back side as a general design. I do sometimes have rotating center sections just because it's cheap. It's cheap to run a centrifuge. It's cheaper than running it with artificial gravity, which is what these ships run all the time. So the centrifuge is a cheaper way of dealing with stuff. So some of the bigger ships have centrifuges that can lock down. The biggest thing with centrifuges is that they act like gyroscopes. So if you have a starship and it has a centrifuge, and that centrifuge is spinning, the starship can't turn because the centrifuge keeps it from, just like a gyroscope would. So it's going to have to, if it has to do any maneuvers, it's going to have to lock the centrifuge and then do the maneuvers and then unlock the centrifuge. So there's your little bit of science for the day. So we're going to, all of these right here are all part of this same thing, right? All these little widgets. Let's make sure that that's straight and I'm not deleting something else. Okay, good. I feel like sometimes I'm like saying these things and it's like, and you're just like, I don't know what you're saying. You're just rambling, and I am kind of rambling. But there's that, it's who we are, I guess. Okay. So on C deck is all of the engineering to control the ship, for the most part. It's the most centralized location. All of it's kind of going out towards the flight surfaces and things like that. So let's look at what we would call, like the bridge. The bridge is sitting in between A deck and B deck, right in the center here. And it's because the front of the bridge is a dome, so that you can turn on the dome and see everything around you, effectively having space all around you. but it can be tactical. And the back of the dome has the science section, which is what's up here, science and tactical. They live up on this top A deck. So I have to figure out where that dome sits, because at some point we're going to have to put a turbo lift, not a turbo lift, but what we call a pass-through hallway, because there's no reason to put turbo lifts on your, I mean, it's cute, right? See? Discworld. Totally. Discworld's awesome. We're going to have to put so these ships have artificial gravity, and this is something that Star Trek does that I think is kind of silly. I wouldn't do that. I would just have null gravity zones that neutralize gravity and are just tubes that go through the middle of the ship. Because if you look at the ship this way, flat like this, you've got a lot of distance from here to here. But when you turn it this way, you don't actually have a lot of distance from here to here. It's only like 3 meters. So going from deck A to deck B would be just a 3-meter move, right? So what you should have is an empty shaft which has gravity generators neutralizing all the gravity. And that's its job. So that you just walk along, get in the shaft, and then drop down 1 level and then walk out, right? And you'd have little handholds in there, and you just whoop, 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 and then you'd walk out to the next level. You'd step over, and the shaft would say, caution variable gravity. You make it big enough for 4 people, and then you can have people going up and down all day long. But the maximum amount of distance from deck A to deck D, all the way through the center core of the ship, the maximum amount of distance, you're right, but turbo lifts. I agree. I mean, how are you going to have exposition if you can't have a bunch of characters stuck in an elevator going, I hate elevators? Right? So you need the exposition somehow, and I get it. So the maximum space in the back here is right here, and that puts it right along here to here, right? Which puts that to here, and puts that to here. So this is where we're probably going to put in the turbo lifts. Looking at this way, I'm going to add ourselves a new raster layer. And what I'm going to actually do is put a rectangle in here. And all I'm really doing is just reserving that spot. Now the shaft could be 2 meters wide. That's wide enough for you to lay down sideways in it, or this way, right? That's a big spot. So we're going to look at the deck plans. Yeah, you want characters to be able to exposition. And I'm just going to go on ahead and put in right here. Right. This is the transfer shaft right here. And right out here on the back. Now what we've got is this. And that's the transfer shaft going down. And this puts us the ability to go from the A deck down the transfer shaft to the D deck and come out here. This is an exit door out the front of the ship. When the ship lands, there's sort of a forward landing strut on the bottom side of the ship, and it has a door that opens this way, and then the landing strut comes down. Like that. I think it's that way. Right? And that allows us to land the ship, and then once it lands, you can walk down the stairs out this door and get out onto the ground. And the Voyager can land too. But that's the reason why there's only one launch and not a big launch bay. I was looking at this and I was like, well, we don't really need a huge launch bay. It's not like it needs 5 or 6 shuttles. It can land. So since it can land itself, and it's designed to land, it's one of the only, not capital ships, because she's not capital, she's a screening unit, but it's one of the larger like ships of the line. It's the only one that can fly through the air. So, and you can see the back landing gear right here and right here. That's all of this structure back here in the assembly on D deck is all for landing gear, so that this thing can land. That's why a lot of the structure has to be back here. It has to be, we have to have weight distribution over the back wheel or the back landing skids so that it can land. Okay, moving on. Looking at B deck and A deck, because the next important thing to put in is the bridge. We don't put the bridge on the front nose of the ship. We do put it up here at the top, and we're going to put it in probably these 4 squares will be the main dome right up here, which will put it, and I'm aggravated that I think that I did the grid here wrong on this, because now we're not quite lined up on the second deck on B deck. I didn't catch it until later, but that's okay. We can make this work. What we're going to do, we're going to go in here. We're already set up for this. This will be where the bridge dome pops into the top section of A deck. And I have to be kind of careful here because I don't want to go so far over that there's no way to get around the bridge dome up here, because it's only peeking in a little bit, right? And then, okay, see you later, V. I'll just keep chatting, even though you're not here. I'll miss you. Bye. Bye, my friend. See you later. You have to be able to get around the bridge dome into here. So the bridge dome's there. So back through here, we're still on this square. Right here. And this is our bridge dome down here. Right? So this is the bridge dome for the bottom deck. It pops up into the top deck here just a little bit, just enough that there can be a top section up here, which is what's going to happen next. We're going to talk a little bit about that, right? It doesn't need to be that big. There we go. Meanwhile, on this deck, there we go. We have to be cognizant there's not a lot of room on either side down here on, well, actually there's a lot of room on this. This is B deck. B deck's up a ways. It's C deck that doesn't have a lot of room. So we're on the bridge here, kind of looking at this from this angle. Okay, let's do that. it's a physical feature of the ship. So we're going to go ahead and put it in a new layer, and we'll start the bridge. Okay. Directly back from the midline here. And then we'll go like this. Okay. All right, just like this, and we're just putting in the basic shape of the bridge here. The best part about this is this will allow us to put a lot of the structure and design in this that we want. Let's get the helm so that we know what we're talking about over here. There's a helm right here. Right, so we'll go to map pieces, copy, paste. And this will help us decide where everything is in the bridge. Right, so we still have far more than enough room in here. It's not as big of a bridge as, say, the Enterprise has. But that's actually okay. Good morning, Donald. How are you this morning? There we go. I'm going to put the controls up there. We are working on the Kittiwake's actual deck plans here. So we'll copy that. Move that over as well. We'll give ourselves a captain's chair. So I'm using Star Trek pieces at the moment to help me visualize the space. We will, of course, redo everything in non-Star Trek terms. You're still waking up. I have that problem. I'm still waking up, and I've been up for a few hours. So, all right. So what we have here is, I'm just setting up the bridge section right through here. Each one of these squares is 2 meters by 2 meters, or about 6 feet. So, roughly. And the truth is that we have navigation, helm, and sail control like on either side, really. But for right now, this works. This at least tells us what we're dealing with here. It's literally a space that I can understand and comprehend. And when we do this, it helps me see just how large of a ship we are actually dealing with, because we are dealing with a bigger ship than I thought we were. So let me show you what we did. In my 3D program, DAZ, I took and brought the Kittiwake in, and then I put slices through here. I put 4 slices through the model, and that allows us to move through the model and see each one of the decks. But if you assume that each one of these is 2 meters, or 6 feet, probably a little more than 2 meters, if you assume that, then we've got a lot of, or this ship is bigger than we thought it was. I mean, even if you're generous and not give it 2 meters, but like 2.5 meters, which is really what those should be, then we've got a lot more room on board this ship than we thought we had. So that's the way that's working. So I'm looking over here, and I'm just up here on the bridge, and we've got a couple of these pieces here. We're gonna have to come through and put the back stairwell, which there's a bathroom back here and all kinds of stuff. So let's go on ahead and put that kind of stuff in, because that's important. People are always like, but there's no bathrooms. Yeah, well, it's important to have bathrooms, people. So here's our toilet. Right? And it's probably an industrial grade toilet nowadays. Odds are good, but at least we know there is a toilet back here. And in the original design for this bridge, and I'm kind of glad we did this, the original one had this huge bathroom with, tons of space, but the problem is this upper fin section of the ship is really tall and very much like this, and there's just not enough room between the A deck and the B deck. Even though it is wider as it goes down, you're still not getting as much width around the side. And now that I have found my only spot, really, to put in the transfer tube, which is through there, I guess we could move the transfer tube forward. So we could... Then we'll deselect. We'll get rid of... Well, that's not good. Our toilet is making a problem. There we go. Much better. But now that we've got this, we can actually see that there is definitely less space back there than we thought there was. And on top of D deck, we need a sink. And we'll take this sink right here. Yep. There's all kinds of stuff that needs to be back here in this section. You are absolutely right, Donald. Have maybe an armory and this guy can just turn around 180 degrees. Put him against his back wall. And that's good, because actually the truth is that we could have now that we've seen what the space needs to be, this toilet can probably move in to be a little, closer to here, like that. I mean, it doesn't need to be a big bathroom. So, and we'll have to have a locker of some sort for all the emergency equipment. That's this guy right here. First aid, maybe a spacesuit locker, except we don't need spacesuits because these... did I move to the right place? No, I didn't. I didn't move it. Okay, let's go to map pieces. There we go. There we go. So this is a closet from... So what I was saying before was I had used a lot of... I'm using assets from... I used assets from the Star Trek blueprints. If we see a cat back there, he's on this tear against a bug or something. So this is the sink, and I'm going to move the sink here. I'm going to move the toilet here. Give you sort of this. So we've got this is about 1 meter. A little less than 1 meter. So let's give this some room. Move it up against here, because that gives us enough room to get into this locker. And enough room to get through here into the bridge. I love the Millennium Falcon blueprints. Crack me up every time. They really do. They're just really funny. I'm going to go ahead and flatten all of these copies out. It makes it easier for me to move stuff around. Okay. Because one of the things we can do is take this helm piece and move it forward, which it really should be. There we go. And that allows us to kind of clear out some of these things. There won't be any caches or smuggler containers on board this. This is a Navy ship, a Navy vessel, and it runs, it's the one that's going to stop you because you're running smuggling things. It's not the one that will... it's not likely to be the one that's involved in smuggling. So, I'm going to call this bridge. All right. How you doing over there? Kai? We're going to work for a few more minutes, but I'm going to have to leave a little early today because I'm monitoring my kid in school. So we'll continue with this offline, and I'll show you our progress tomorrow. On tomorrow's show, we have... I should save this. And by the way, today is Carl Sagan's birthday, for those of you who are wondering. So, happy birthday to Dr. Sagan. And once again, our show was sponsored by Pablo Picasso, who says everything you can imagine is real. Because Picasso had problems with reality. I guess. I don't know. Oh, sure. And that's not to say that I don't think that there won't be hiding spaces that you could stick stuff in on this ship. I'm just saying that it's going to be exactly like you'd find a Navy ship. You know, it's where you smuggle the beer You'll find that because it's underneath this one floor panel, and that makes total sense. But the end result, of course, is that wasn't designed that way. It's not like the guys in the shipyards in Virginia are sitting there going, you know what we should do? We should make a beer spot right here. Although they might be. I mean, let's be realistic here. It could happen. It could happen. So I think there will be like spots on here, but since these are the definitive deck plans, they're going to be on here. Those spots where they hide stuff on the ship, that's going to be on here. So I'm not worried about that one per se. But we've got to get going here in a minute. I'll be back again at 10 tomorrow morning, and we'll make sure that we finish these. These may be done by tonight, but there's a couple of things that I've made a mistake on that I want to go back and fix. This deck's grid is off-centered, and that makes it difficult to locate where everything is in line with everything else. So I'm going to have to tear the grid out on B, and then I'll put that back in. So there's no reason to do that online. That would just be irritating. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We'll see what else is going on. We've put in the gravity generators up front. That's for generating the massive black hole the ship falls towards, and that's its donkey drive. The sail generator is right behind it there, with some of its associated doodly wops, and then we've got a control panel right up here, which just helps us control that. Going after on the ship, this is the engine room, which only really has small devices that keep control of the wings and surfaces. The main engines and the power plants are actually out on pontoons, as they are with all ships in my universe. So the ship has wings with the engine power plants on the pontoons. Those are the ones that are actually generating the most big power, but they're also somewhat radioactive, so they keep them away from the living spaces as much as possible. So that's a reasonable thing. And then again, we built the bridge, which is right here. And the bridge goes up into deck A up here, and there will be another control panel right up here, which is the overlook from here. And there's people up there that look in on the bridge from overhead, and that's where your tactical or science people are, depending on what job you need. So that's where they're going to be. But like I said, I want to tear out the grid on deck B and put in a new grid because I did it wrong, and that's aggravating. So yeah, I think you should be able to control everything secondarily up here in the pilot house. So the pilot house should be able to control everything in a secondary manner in case the bridge is taken out for whatever reason. They did put the bridge in the center of the ship, literally in the center core of the ship, so that it's harder to destroy it. But the pilot house up front on the very, very nose of the vessel, that can also double as a helm if needed. So anyway, it was good to see you, Donald. I'm glad you were here. Thank you very much, and I will see you all tomorrow at the same time. Bye-bye. Keep your eyes on the stars.